At 3 a.m., my husband's phone lit up with a text, "I miss you already, baby." Confused, I reached for it. Before I could read more, he snatched it away and shouted, "Stay out of my business." My heart pounded. The next morning, I followed him. What I saw left me frozen in place. I woke up at 3 a.m. because my throat was dry. Nothing weird about that. I got up, went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stood there for a moment, letting the coldness soothe the scratch in my throat. That's when I saw it. My husband's phone lit up on the nightstand. The room was dark, and the bright glow caught my eye immediately. I don't usually check his phone. I had no reason to. We'd been together for 12 years, married for 9. Trust had never been an issue. But something about that screen lighting up in the dead of night sent a weird feeling through me. I walked back to bed, glancing at it without really meaning to. "I miss you already, baby." My stomach dropped. I reached for the phone, my fingers barely grazing the screen before he snatched it off the nightstand so fast it was like he'd been expecting it. "Stay out of my business." His voice was low, clipped, irritated. I just stared at him. My heart was pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. My whole body had gone cold. I wanted to laugh, like it was some kind of joke, but his face told me it wasn't. I swallowed. Who was that? He locked his phone and set it face down on his chest. "Nobody." "Nobody," I repeated. He rolled onto his side, his back to me. "Go to sleep." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just sat there, staring at the back of his head, at the way his shoulders rose and fell like this was nothing. Like I hadn't just seen a message from another woman. I don't know how long I sat there. My mind was racing, my skin burning like I'd been slapped. He was acting normal. Too normal. I forced myself to lie down, but my brain wouldn't shut off. I played the moment over and over in my head. The way he grabbed the phone. The way he immediately went on the defensive. The way he told me to stay out of his business. Since when did we have secrets? I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to him breathe. I wanted to reach over, shake him awake, demand answers. But something in me knew I wouldn't get them. Not now. So I waited. He got up earlier than usual the next morning. Took a shower, shaved, things he usually skipped in his morning routine. He left the house without breakfast. I felt sick as I grabbed my keys. I wasn't a paranoid person. I wasn't a jealous person. I had never done anything like this before. But something was wrong. I followed him. He didn't go to work. He drove right past his office, past the downtown area, past the usual streets he took every day for the last 7 years. I stayed a few cars behind, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. He pulled into a Starbucks parking lot. My heart was hammering. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he had an early meeting. Maybe, then she walked in. A woman. Younger. Long dark hair, wearing a dress that hugged her body in all the right places. She looked excited. Like she was meeting someone she actually wanted to see. And then he walked in. I watched through the window as my husband sat down across from her. I told myself I was overreacting. That it could still be innocent. That maybe she was just a coworker, maybe he was mentoring her, maybe. Then he leaned in. And she reached out, fingers grazing his arm like it was hers to touch. And then he kissed her. Right there. In the middle of a Starbucks. In the middle of the morning rush. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt like I had left my body. My vision blurred. My stomach flipped. My skin turned hot and cold at the same time. I sat there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands cramped. I wanted to scream. I wanted to walk in there, slam my ring down on the table, watch the color drain from his face as I caused a scene. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I watched as they laughed, as he looked at her the way he hadn't looked at me in years. I watched as he reached for her hand, his thumb stroking over her knuckles. I watched as my husband became a complete stranger. And then I drove home. I don't even remember the drive. I must have been running on autopilot because suddenly I was standing in our kitchen, staring at the coffee maker like it held the answers to every question racing through my head. My phone buzzed. Him, morning, babe. How's your day so far? I stared at the text until the words blurred. How's my day? I sat down at the kitchen table, my hands shaking so hard I had to press them against my thighs. I needed a plan. I needed proof. I needed to hear him say it. Because if I confronted him now, I knew what he'd do. He'd lie. So I waited. I didn't respond to his text. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly, and my head felt like it was full of static. Instead, I spent the next few hours pacing the house, my mind racing through every memory, every conversation, every late night when he said he was working late. Had it been happening for months? Years? Had he ever stopped loving me, or was I just some obligation he couldn't shake off? By the time he got home that evening, I had managed to calm myself just enough to act normal. If normal meant standing in the kitchen, gripping the counter so hard my nails bit into my palms. "Hey, babe," he said, dropping his keys in the dish by the door. "Crazy day at work." I turned. Looked at him. He looked exactly the same. My husband. The man who had promised me forever. Only now, all I could see were his lies. "Yeah?" I said, my voice even. "Yeah. Just non-stop meetings. I barely had time to grab lunch." I almost laughed. I had watched him have lunch. Watched him kiss that woman like I didn't exist. He walked over, pressing a quick kiss to my forehead. I fought the urge to pull away. "You okay?" he asked, his brow creasing like he actually cared. I forced a small smile. "Yeah. Just tired." I saw the relief in his face. He bought it. Good. Because I wasn't done yet. That night, while he slept, I took his phone. I held my breath as I slid it off the nightstand, moving so slowly I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. Locked. Of course. But I had watched him unlock it 1,000 times. I knew his passcode. I typed it in. And then I saw everything. Texts. Hundreds of them. Her, "Can't wait to see you again. Yesterday was amazing." Him, "Miss you already, baby." Counting the minutes. It felt like I had been punched in the gut. My breath came short and fast. I forced myself to keep reading, even though every word felt like another knife to the chest. Her, "When are you telling her?" Him, "Soon." It's complicated. I clapped a hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. My whole body was shaking. He was planning to leave me. For her. For some woman I didn't even know existed until yesterday. I clicked on their photos. There were pictures of them together. A weekend getaway I never knew about. A selfie of them in bed, her head on his chest, both of them smiling. In our bed. I dropped the phone like it burned me. The next morning, I went back to that Starbucks. I needed to see her. I needed to know who the hell had blown up my life without me even realizing it. She was already there, sitting at the same table, sipping some fancy drink like she didn't have a care in the world. I walked straight up to her. She looked up, confused, then wary. "Are you sleeping with my husband?" The words came out sharper than I meant. My voice was steady, but my hands were trembling. Her eyes widened. "What? Don't lie," I cut her off. She swallowed. I didn't know he was married. That did it. That snapped something inside me. I laughed. It was hollow and bitter. "Really? You didn't know?" "Because I read the texts. The ones where you asked when he was leaving me." That doesn't sound like someone who didn't know. Her face paled. She opened her mouth, closed it, then shook her head. "He told me you two were separated. That you were just living together for now." I felt like throwing up. "You believe that?" I asked. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I don't know," she muttered. "How long?" I demanded. 7 months. I exhaled through my nose. 7 months. 7 months of my life had been a lie. "I swear, I didn't want, save it," I snapped. I turned and walked away before I did something I'd regret. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted to. I wanted to scream, to throw his shit onto the lawn, to tell him exactly what kind of man he was. But I wasn't done yet. I needed to hurt him like he hurt me. And I had the perfect plan. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my nails bit into my palms, my breath coming fast and sharp. 7 months. 7 months of my life had been a joke, and I was the only one who didn't know the punchline. And then, something clicked. I wasn't going to just sit here and cry. No. I was going to make him feel every ounce of this pain. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through his messages again, my stomach twisting. Then I saw something that made me go still. A name. One I recognized. Brian. His best friend. His childhood best friend. The one who had been in our wedding. The one who had dinner with us just 2 weeks ago. And the one he had been texting about her. Him, man, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Brian, just rip the band-aid off. You're basically living two lives at this point. Him, I know. I know. I just need to make sure everything is in place first. I felt my stomach turn. Brian knew. And he said nothing. I knew what I had to do next. I showed up at Brian's apartment unannounced. He looked surprised when he opened the door. Then nervous. Yeah. He knew. Hey. What's up? He asked, leaning against the doorframe like he wasn't completely freaking out inside. I didn't answer. I pulled out my phone, opened the texts, and shoved it into his face. How long have you known? He didn't even try to deny it. His mouth opened, then shut. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, how long, Brian? My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. He sighed. Since the beginning. My chest squeezed. I had sat across from this man at dinners. Hugged him. Treated him like family. And the whole time, he had been looking me in the eye while knowing my husband was screwing someone else. You're a piece of shit, you know that? I spat. He nodded. I didn't want to get involved, but you were involved. You covered for him. You let me sit across from you and talk about my life while you knew it was all a joke. He flinched but said nothing. I turned to leave. Wait, he said. There's something you don't know. I hesitated. It's not just her, he said quietly. The room tilted. What? Brian sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. She's not the first one. She's just the only one who's stuck around this long. I felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me. How many? I whispered. He hesitated. That told me enough. You know what? I said, backing away. I don't even care. I don't need to hear it from you. I turned and left, slamming the door behind me. When I got home, I felt calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that meant something was about to go down. I wasn't just going to confront him. That wasn't enough. I needed him to lose. So I took my time. I copied every text. Every picture. Every little secret he thought was safe on his phone. I backed up everything onto a flash drive and tucked it into my purse. Then I waited. When he walked through the door that evening, I was sitting on the couch, sipping wine like it was any other night. Hey, babe, he said, setting his bag down. How was your day? I smiled. It was great. I had coffee with someone interesting. He froze for half a second. Then he smiled like nothing was wrong. Oh yeah? Who? I tilted my head. Your girlfriend. His face drained of color so fast I almost felt bad. Almost. What? He said, his voice hoarse. You heard me, I said, standing up. I had coffee with her. She told me everything. She thought we were separated. And guess what else I found out? He swallowed. That she's not the first, I said, my voice steady. And I got confirmation from Brian, in case you feel like lying. His jaw clenched. He knew he was caught. I took a step closer. So now, you're going to tell me the truth. All of it. Or I swear to God, I will make sure everyone knows exactly who you are. I had never seen my husband scared before. But he was scared now. And I wasn't done yet. He didn't speak. His face was blank, but I saw the panic in his eyes. He was calculating, scrambling for a way out. I let the silence stretch. Well? I said. My voice was steady, controlled. Deadly. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. I messed up. I laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, bitter sound that even startled me. Messed up? I repeated. That's what you call 7 months of sneaking around? Bringing her to our bed? Lying to my face every single day? That's a mess up to you? I didn't mean, don't, I cut him off. Do not stand there and feed me some half-assed excuse. Tell me the truth. He looked at me, jaw clenched. His eyes darted to the door, like he was thinking about leaving. You don't get to run from this, I said. Sit. Down. He hesitated. Sit down. He did. Slowly. For the first time, I saw him how he really was. Weak. Cowardly. A man who wanted all the benefits of love but none of the responsibility. How long? I asked. What? How long have you been cheating on me? Not just with her. With all of them. His lips parted slightly, caught off guard. Then he looked down. For years, he mumbled. The words knocked the air out of my lungs. 4 years. I gripped the back of the chair, feeling dizzy. That was nearly half our marriage. Half of what I thought was a committed, loving relationship had been nothing but a lie. He must have mistaken my silence for an opening because he leaned forward. It didn't mean anything. I slammed my hand on the table. He flinched. It meant everything to me, I said through clenched teeth. His mouth opened, then shut. He had nothing. I gave you my whole life, I said, my voice shaking now. I built everything around us. And you threw it away for what? A bunch of meaningless hookups? Was I just convenient to you? No. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I demanded. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't know, okay? I felt stuck. And things got comfortable, and comfortable? I hissed. He winced. That's exactly what you meant, I snapped. The realization hit me like a train. He didn't cheat because something was missing in our marriage. He cheated because he wanted to. Because he liked the attention. The thrill. The easy exit in case he ever got bored of me. I had spent years blaming myself every time we felt distant. Thinking maybe I wasn't exciting enough. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. But the truth was simple. He had never planned to stay. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. He didn't get that. He didn't deserve it. So, what now? I asked coldly. He looked at me, confused. Are you going to finally leave? I said. Or were you going to keep pretending? I don't know, he admitted. That was it. That was all I needed to hear. I grabbed the folder sitting on the counter and tossed it in front of him. What's this? He asked warily. Divorce papers, I said. I had them drawn up this afternoon. His head snapped up. Shock. I stared at him, unblinking. You thought I was going to sit around and let you decide what happens next? No. I'm done. You don't get to figure it out. You made your decision years ago. This is me making mine. His mouth opened, but I turned and walked away before he could say a damn thing. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, logistics, and splitting up a life I had spent over a decade building. I kept the house. He moved into some apartment downtown. The same one he had probably been taking his little side pieces to for years. Word got out fast. Friends, family, coworkers, everyone found out. And not from me. From her. The woman from Starbucks. Turns out, she was more pissed than I thought. The moment she realized she had been the other woman all along, she let loose. She posted screenshots. Texts. Photos. Everything. His reputation. Destroyed. Brian? Stopped talking to him. Their whole friend group sided with me. And him? He had the audacity to text me. Him, can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment. Then I blocked his number. It's been 6 months now. At first, I was angry. Every day, I wanted to scream. To throw things. To hurt him the way he hurt me. But now? Now, I'm free. I don't have to wonder if he's lying to me. I don't have to stay up at night overthinking. I don't have to walk on eggshells, trying to be enough for a man who never deserved me in the first place. And you know what? I'm happy. Happier than I ever was with him. If you're reading this and you're wondering if something feels off in your relationship, trust your gut. And when they show you who they really are, believe them. And walk away.